Welcome into the latest edition of ESPN FC. I'm Dan Thomas, joined in the studio today by Craig Burley and Stevie Nicol. Happy Thanksgiving if you're in the States. Although there is a tinge of sadness about today, as there's no more international football for this year. How are we going to cope?
This year?
Yeah, this year. It's done,
marvellous.
Craig. It's all over. We have to wait until 2024 until it returns.
The year's nearly over.
Say again?
The year's nearly over.
Well, still a bit to go.
Well, come on, that was Thanksgiving good news.
That was the good news, Stevie.
Well, if it had been February, I'd been delighted.
All right, Grumpy. There we go. So the Premier League returns this weekend, and it is back with a bang, of course, as it will be. Manchester City against Liverpool. Taking a look at the table, just a reminder how these two teams are set going into this, quite literally, top of the table clash. Just 1 point separate them going into the tie, which of course kicks off early on Saturday. According to the bookies, Manchester City are favourites, as you would expect, to take all 3 points. Liverpool outsiders coming into this clash 3-1, draw 3-1. We welcome in our former Manchester City defender, Nadim Anua, is with us to look ahead to this game. Craig, let's start with you. It should be a cracker, shouldn't it?
Yeah. I mean, should we not mention the early kick-off?
No, don't mention the early kick-off, or else everyone will get angry.
Was it an early kick-off?
Just don't. Yeah, it should be a cracker. Obviously, you know, we knew City would be up the top of the league and are up, you know, the team to beat again. We wondered about what Liverpool were going to see early in the season after last year. It's been quite impressive. There's been a few flaws in there, but then again, so had City, particularly last time out at Chelsea. So it should be a cracker. What I would say, both sides have a 100% home record, but Liverpool's away record is a little bit patchy. 2 wins, 3 draws, and that controversial loss at Tottenham, which obviously was a big story at the time. So their away record is not rock solid, and that, amongst some other things, would point in the direction of Man City.
Let's just take a look at everyone's predictions, shall we, to guide us through this segment as to how they think this is going to go. Everyone is going for goals. No surprise about that. Stevie's going for a 3-2. Craig, you're going for a 2-1. I'm going for a 3-2. Oh, Nadim.
Please a double bluff.
Oh, here it is again. The double bluff of wonder.
Yeah, you know me, Dan. I do this very, very well every single time I'm on. You know how it goes. Sit on the fence, get people upset. No, but in all seriousness, I think if this was a game that didn't come after the international break, I probably would have lent towards City. But the fact that most of the players have been travelling around the world, if not at the time to fully prepare, City probably got 1 or 2 injuries potentially they need to try and address as well. I can't necessarily see City losing, but I think Liverpool make a better account of themselves than, say, they did last year. And I think they're probably more set, more focused to be able to go out there and put in a good performance. But again, I think it draws. It's a result. You saw the odds. It was the same odds as Liverpool win. So why couldn't I say that? I think 2-2 is probably going to be a good game. I think it will be like a fair outcome, and I wouldn't be surprised if both teams took it at the end of the day.
He's probably said on Man City TV that it's 4-0 City.
Yeah, exactly. If he
4-0 City.
Throws enough darts and that's it. Can Liverpool have learned anything from the Chelsea game, Stevie?
No.
No?
I don't. For me, Liverpool's... It's all about what they do defensively. Regardless, I think we know what City's going to do, but what I don't know is what Liverpool's back line's going to do.
Okay.
And I can't get away from that. Every time I think about this game, there's one in particular that scares the life out of me. If he plays Doku against Trent Alexander-Arnold, that is it.
He's going to play Doku, isn't he, though? Like,
well,
why wouldn't you?
Well,
he's come in.
I think for that.
Well.
I think for that reason.
Yeah. No, I think if there's anything to come out of the Chelsea game, I thought Doku was poor. You know, everybody's expecting because of his performance the previous week. Oh, this guy's going to light it up again.
Yeah.
And I thought he was pretty average. So maybe that goes into Pep's mind. At the same time, if I'm Pep, I look at Trent and I look at Doku, and this is a complete mismatch defensively. So that's what I'm worried about. And you can go to the other side as well. Tsimikas against Foden or Bernardo Silva, again, I think is a mismatch. And I can't get away from that. You know, we showed on the show yesterday all the goals that Liverpool's forwards have scored over the international break. And that's not a surprise either, because they've got guys that can score. The problem is, you cannot go to Man City and expect to lose 3 and score 4. You just can't, and that's what I'm worried about.
Was it not... I'm trying to think back to that. great game at Stamford Bridge. Was it not Reece James that played? I think it was, against Doku, who's a completely different kettle of fish to Alexander-Arnold. Reece James is a good defender. He's quick, he's strong, he stays on his feet, generally gets himself in a good position. So that's a different animal. I think at one-on-one, I think you'd be licking your chops if you're Guardiola with a potential of Doku running and isolating them with Alexander-Arnold. And I also think, looking at City on the other side, we've talked on the show about not that they're weak down the left side, but they've certainly lost, it seems to me, more goals down the left-hand side. You're now looking at Gvardiol, who's a really good defender, but not essentially a really good left-back, against Mo Salah. So there are so many, there's little areas on both sides that I think you could look to pinpoint. But in some way I would be encouraged by what I saw from Chelsea if I was Liverpool at Stamford Bridge, about how ragged City got. They've had, there's international break, there's been no time to sort of go over that too much, I wouldn't imagine, from Guardiola's point of view. But I just think there's one or two flaws on either side, particularly defensively, that we're looking at the matchups. Possibly Doku and Alexander-Arnold, Salah and Gvardiol. And then, Ruben Dias didn't look great in that Chelsea game either. I presume he plays Darwin Núñez for his pace, because if they leave themselves exposed, he will run in behind.
I'm kind of feeling glass half empty, to be honest, because
that's my job.
I don't disagree. Yeah. I don't disagree with Salah and Guardiola, but again, in my brain, I'm thinking, well, I can see Doku having the ball twice as much as what Salah's going to have it.
Well, what can we do to cheer you up between now and Saturday morning?
Every time I think of the positive sides of it,
cheer him up.
I see a counter problem.